make her feel horrible.
Irrational.
They didn't want me.
Texting.
I don't feel in control.
They're abandoning me.
I need someone to tell me it's going to be okay.
I believe that I am a massively empathetic person, which has certainly helped me throughout my jobs, which have been varied. I've worked in the NHS with both children and adults.
I would like to say that I'm very perceptive. I'm really good at reading situations, especially when it comes to giving people advice on like relationships or anything personal.
It has certainly helped me to understand people on a level that maybe others do not.
Yeah, my opinions might come across as extreme, and it seems like I'm overthinking everything, but for me, I'd like to have all the grounds covered.
On the whole, I feel emotions very deeply, which can be positive or negative, because those emotions feel so real to me. So whether that be happiness or sadness or anger.
But in the end, my overthinking can push people away.
When I look back and think of a family who were able to provide everything in terms of money and basic needs.
I wouldn't think my childhood experience growing up was very normal. They made me feel very different from the family, and I think from childhood, with my whole family in general, I always felt like the outsider and I never fitted in, and I've always had that sense of fear of them abandoning me, which they did when I was a baby.
My dad was always someone who I remembered shouting a lot.
When my parents separated, that's when it hit me. They didn't want me, like who should take her basically. So I had to get taken by my dad. That was horrible, and he was pretty much drunk all the time.
I always have this standout memory of my dad drink driving with my sister in the car. And it's just small memories like this that kind of allow me to maybe remember where certain things started for me.
I am an NMC registered mental health nurse.
So with BPD, it's probably the most socially constructed classification there is. Borderline in particular, or labelled as such PD or personality disorder, are used in a very derisory way. Although it is believed that women suffer from BPD more than men, research from Chapman and Gratz suggests that men with BPD have the same struggles and symptoms as women with BPD. People who have those problems probably had really difficult things happen to them at early on stages in life. Lots of trauma, particularly around sexual abuse, physical abuse, and various types of domestic violence.
I realised I had borderline personality disorder. It's funny.
It came really when my sister had suggested to me that maybe I should look into BPD.
She told me to see someone about it. When I went to see someone professionally about it, they questioned me a lot, and they found out that I actually have borderline personality disorder. When they said those 3 words, I was like, what the hell is that? It took me a while to understand it.
For a while, I couldn't really work out what was going on. I wasn't really sure whether I was just depressed.
I think it made sense because of how I was without it, and then suddenly when I have a borderline attack, how different I'd react, and it would just be like, what the hell, this is not me.
You know, it only takes one small thing for me to sort of, I would say, go off on one.
It's the idea that everyone's out there to hurt me, and then that results going into a whole spiral of paranoia.
I just kind of take that little seed and just grow it into a full-blown tree.
Me having to call the person constantly.
I would have no qualms with ringing their phone over 100 times if they weren't answering. I would have no qualms with texting, probably pretty abusive things.
And act very extreme.
Kind of just being very irrational.
My BPD, when I'm in a relationship, it's the same cycle over and over again.
And that's something that I really need to work on. So, you know, rather than using it as, you know, an excuse, it requires me to put in a lot of effort and make sure that actually I'm doing the right things.
People who are diagnosed with BPD often have addiction issues and engage in drugs and alcohol. That's one of the symptom clusters. Self-harm is about regulating emotions. Again, that's one of the symptom clusters in borderline.
I also have struggled for quite a few years, I'd say, with the addiction side of things.
I started off when I was young was self-harming or sex, one of them.
Spending excessive amounts of money, or again, I noticed that I was quite like my dad in the way that I would go on these kind of binge drinking / drug taking sessions.
It's very horrible and toxic behaviour and very dangerous behaviour, but I'm not going to lie, it did help.
I think even on a day-to-day level, it's still something I'm trying to work out and work out how I can kind of manage it.
Technically, you can live a normal life, but it's a matter of how the situations play out.
It certainly affects my relationships. It certainly affected relationships with my family, my friends, and the standout one for me is been in relationships, with men, and that's definitely been a big problem for me. I was trying to get away from an abusive relationship.
It was very toxic.
I'd spent a week, being away from home, not taking my medications for my depression, which meant I was then getting horrible withdrawals, and I was just drinking, having sex, doing drugs, with two guys, and just not actually dealing with any of the responsibilities that I had in my life.
I was doing very crazy things, which I'm not really proud of. I was making them aware that if they weren't with me, that I would probably kill myself, and forcing them to be with me out of guilt.
People have problems psychologically in terms of attachment and how to self-soothe and regulate their own emotions.
I think abandonment is the main issue I have when it comes to my mental health, BPD or not BPD, but I think that's where BPD stems from, the fear of abandonment.
Yeah, so this is certainly something that as the years have gone by, I've realised I have a complete fear of abandonment. I absolutely cannot stand time spent alone. I usually need that void to be filled.
The most I'm anxious about is people abandoning me. I was fine when I met my friends, because then I was like, okay, I've got a family. But then when one of them passed away and didn't really tell me about it, obviously, I guess that was another form of abandonment, because this was worse. It was worse because, when someone shows you love and a lot of care, and then they go.
There are NICE guidelines that recommend DBT, schema therapy, and mentalization-based therapy, which is more about attachment and psychoanalytical ways of looking at it. But to access those services, you've got to be towards a certain end of severity of having problems.
I would love help, but I am aware that maybe I won't be able to access what I would like or best need for BPD. Hopefully, when I again am in a financial position to do so, I definitely like to look into private therapy.
What works with people is having a decent therapist. It doesn't really matter what model they're trained in or a specialist team.
I think everyone should say they want help with their disorder. I've been to counselling, I've been to therapy, and it helped. I don't know if BPD defines me.
I want to say no. I don't think BPD does define me.
I feel like with BPD, it's just another label.
Some people say it's not a real disorder because it's personality based. It's not physically visible. Other people aren't going to relate well to you. As soon as we can't relate to other people, we other them, make them the other. We don't have empathy towards them, and they're seen as not treatable, which is why they often get rejected by mental health services.
I believe that obviously it has a massive impact on me and the person that I am. And I guess in a way it is a part of me, but I don't think it defines me as such. Because I feel like if I was defined by something, it's almost like I kind of can't break out of that. And for me, it's something that is a work in progress. And it's certainly something that I have to accept. And like I said, it is a part of me. But it's something that I believe can get better, and hopefully that I will be able to cope with in healthier ways somewhere down the line. So I think it's kind of just a part of me rather than defining me.
I'm not sure how long it's going to take for me to get to where I need to get to, but I have 77 days roughly until
77 days until I'm better.